Okay, so I did say that I would make a quick video for in response to a post that I made on Stacey and Doug's YouTube channel. So my name is Leilani Root, and I stopped working as a nurse in 2020 when this COVID pandemic first came out. It just didn't feel right for me, and it kind of bothered my conscience because we went through 2020 and it just wasn't feeling normal or right for me. And I walked away from nursing. I was a nurse in Texas in the DFW Metroplex, where I worked as a level 1 trauma nurse in the ER. And then we moved to Alabama when my father-in-law was diagnosed with dementia. So we moved over to Alabama, and I worked at a small freestanding ER, and then I went and worked at another facility in Chattanooga in surgical ICU with open hearts, and then I went and helped out at another little ER that was questionable, and it didn't feel like a good place for me to be. And then I went into hospice, and that was also a very big eye-opener for me, because once I started titrating some of my patients off of their medications, they would actually get better. Some of them would get better and no longer be eligible for hospice. And also, in and around that time, I was diagnosed with a 6th autoimmune disorder, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Every year I seem to have other conditions and ailments, and I get diagnosed with another autoimmune disorder. This was by chance, because I had an upper respiratory infection that I was struggling with. And this doctor said to me, well, let's go ahead and give you antibiotics. And I'm not one for medications. And they gave me a fluoroquinolone and a Rocephin shot. And I happened to have a physical the next Tuesday. And they called me from my doctor's office, and they told me that I was in liver failure and I needed to go and see a hepatologist, which I did. And then I come to find out that I had 2 more autoimmune disorders. It was primary biliary cholangitis and autoimmune hepatitis, which is directly related to fluoroquinolones. So I did a little bit more research, and these are also medications that were given prophylactically to our soldiers when they had that anthrax scare. So I wonder why I said stare. Anyway, so I did some more research. These antibiotics do liver damage, and that was when I decided that I was going to stop cold turkey and listen to my body and start paying attention to what medications affected my body. What foods affected my body, because I stopped all of the medications. And the autoimmune disorders that I have was Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid disorder, which is directly related to gluten. Gluten has protein molecules in it that is very similar to our thyroid tissue. And we are taught to eat foods that are actually poisonous to us, and they cause systemic inflammation, namely nightshades like tomatoes, peppers, artichokes. Anything that an insect doesn't eat, we probably shouldn't eat. So I stopped eating those. I noticed that I'd get indigestion from tomatoes. And when I researched that a little bit more, and I'm not going to use long medical terms because I want other people to also understand what I'm getting at. So when you have that systemic inflammation in your GI tract, which is your first line of defense against diseases and illnesses, and also your immunity, so when that is compromised and inflamed, you get something called leaky gut syndrome. So when you're eating gluten, which are your breads and pastas, and that molecule is very similar to thyroid tissue, like I said. So then it leaks into your body, and then your body recognizes it as a pathogen or something that shouldn't be there. So it starts building antibodies against that protein molecule, which is very similar to thyroid tissue, and so then it starts attacking your thyroid. So I struggled with Hashimoto's for many years. So I did cut out gluten, and sometimes I still fall off the wagon I want a piece of bread and I pay for it because you can feel that it puts you out of balance. Like I already said, the tomatoes and the peppers, those are like low pranic foods, and so I stopped taking those. The other autoimmune disorders, it was the Hashimoto's, the primary biliary cholangitis, autoimmune hepatitis, which was related to the fluoroquinolones and the antibiotics that are really not healthy for you. They are actually black box items that doctors prescribe like candy without really noticing or knowing or being aware of the liver damage that it causes. I also have interstitial cystitis, which was related to legumes, so your beans and your lentils, and I still try to soak those, but I can notice when the phytonutrients on it has not been it isn't dissolved or it isn't released from the legume itself, and then that causes a lot of bladder discomfort. So I stopped doing those, and what I have tried doing the last few weeks is to actually sprout the mung beans and the lentils, and they're more nutritionally dense that way, and my body tends to process it a lot better, or it's easier on the digestive tract. And polycystic ovarian syndrome, I think many of us struggle with as well, and that's when you like grow hair in places that you're not supposed to. And I think overall I just don't have a lot of issues with it because of the changes that I've made. So I'm trying to think what else. I haven't thought about it for a while. I know that there's 6 of them. It was the Hashimoto's, the primary biliary cholangitis, the autoimmune hepatitis, the polycystic ovarian syndrome, the interstitial cystitis. Oh, and fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is actually a sleep disorder, and it has to do with sleep apnea. There's a phenomenal doctor that I worked with in surgical ICU in Chattanooga. His name is Dr. Manda, and he's a pulmonologist, and he had great results with people that have fibromyalgia that go on a CPAP. I no longer need a CPAP. I haven't needed it for many, many years, and I also don't have the entire body aches and pains that are related to fibromyalgia. So that's another disorder that is totally misdiagnosed and mistreated by the medical field, in my opinion, and from the trial and errors that I have done for myself. So since walking away from the medical field and stopping all of pharmaceuticals, and the Bible does tell us in Revelation that pharmakia is sorcery, and also researching the Bible opens up a whole nother can of worms when you realize all of the manipulations and the contortions in it. So those of us that have been blessed with the gift of discernment, which I have been as an anointed child of God and chosen for this mission, which I feel very strongly about, I do not put poison in my body. And I have felt like it's my mission to help others get healthy and to discern what's what. Also, I'm referring to the Bible when I feel called to, because I'm spiritual. I'm not necessarily religious. I do believe in God because I am anointed, I am chosen, and I am here for the bigger purpose in order to help people obtain optimal health, because in my heart I believe that is what Jesus and Mary Magdalene did along with the apostles, is that they taught health and wellness, because if your body is health and well to its optimum, it means that your glands in your body, in your endocrine system, which is the one thing that is attacked the most, once all of those are in balance and our mind and body in alignment, we connect to God and our higher selves and source. So in the Bible it does tell us that pharmakia is sorcery. So I choose not to put any pharmaceuticals in my body, because I do believe, as it tells us in Genesis, that God gave us all of the plants and the herbs and the trees and the fruits as our meat. So having embraced that and just listening to my body through my journey, I have found that my body cannot tolerate meat. I used to enjoy rare steaks, and I just got an aversion to it where I could taste the necrosis or the death in the flesh. And it is my belief that we are not to have the blood or the flesh of another sentient being in our body, because it affects homeostasis and it affects the balances in our body. I realize everybody's at a different place in their journey, and I'm respectful of that. I'm just sharing my thoughts and how it affects me. And I do believe it affects different blood types differently. The carnivore diet is not something that's ever worked for me. And I do realize it helps for some people, but it also can exacerbate and cause stomach ulcers and all kinds of issues. I then tried chicken, and one year we had meat birds, and when it came to slaughtering them, I couldn't. Like, my ex-husband slaughtered them, and I processed them, and I cried the entire time. And I do not eat chicken. That put me off of that. Fish was the last one, and it has the least blood in it, so I think it affects everybody differently. So for me, I cannot eat fish. I cannot eat the cooked food because it makes me sick, and it makes me feel off balanced. I haven't had any fish in a long time, but I did find that when my B12 was getting low, I would crave fish, and then I would be able to eat it raw, like with tuna tataki or ceviche in that form, because again, it made me feel sick if it was cooked. So those are the things that I found. So I don't do gluten. Like I said, I fall off the wagon at times, and then I pay for it. Dairy is also not healthy for us in any way, shape or form. And I do struggle with cheese because I do love it, but I've been good for the last couple of weeks. I think it's been 2 weeks. Again, if you get phlegmy when you eat dairy, that is an inflammatory response from your body. So just pay attention to how it acts. And we are the only species that consume the breast milk of a beast. It is not healthy for us, and I do believe that that is what constitutes exacerbation of the polycystic ovarian syndromes, and that's why we grow hair where we're not supposed to. Again, it causes discrepancies. Another thing I would encourage people to avoid at any and all costs is soy. Soy is extremely high in estrogen, and it causes, in men especially, I'm sure, it causes a testosterone and estrogen imbalance, and that's why men will generally have low T. But this is even bigger, because there was a time when the government would dictate to our farmers what they could and couldn't grow on their farms with Monsanto, where they forced them to produce soy products. So I looked into that as well. My oldest son developed gynecomastia, which is breast tissue, when he is 25 now, and he was 13 at the time. And I started looking into it, and you start realizing that the government treats the water. They put fluoride and calcium and estrogen and all kinds of things in the water. And that's how they have treated the whole population. And if you look at your salad dressings and everything you buy in the store, it's also very high in soy, and that's usually the first ingredient. So that means that it's the main product in that salad dressing or whatever it is you're buying. And this is it. It is to push an ulterior agenda, and this is going to be a little bit shocking to folks. And again, you need to do your own research. This is what I've found. Those are things that I could put together that would then create an imbalance in our sons. And this is why my son was developing breast tissue. A few years ago, he did have it removed. You couldn't notice it. I could, having been in the medical field and noticing that this is wrong. My son shouldn't be developing breast tissue. But it's bigger than that. When you realize that the government wants to have total control, and they have this ulterior agenda, which is their Baphomet Ball agenda, where they're emasculating our men. And this is why we have these gender crises, where we have our children identifying as being feminine or more feminine, and they think that God made a mistake, and this is where the transgender comes in. Along with Disney and their subliminal programming, they have caused this huge big discombobulated mess. So research it. The Hollywood stuff is all part of something much bigger, and they have attacked us in all ways, shapes and forms, starting with the foods we eat, with the pharmaceuticals we put in our body, and treating our water. That it has affected our children negatively, and it's all with this to where our sons are emasculated and are growing breast tissue, which again is their Baphomet Bala gender, which is two genders in one body, which goes against my beliefs. But this is a mass thing that they have been doing. And there's more and more people waking up to it. And then there's the whole religious aspect to it as well, but I won't go there. So again, these are things that I've noticed that are changing. The other thing are the vaccinations. That's why when the COVID came out with coronavirus, corona is another word for crown. This is a crown virus. And I'm going to make another video. I just wanted to make this quite quick as well, where I'll go more into that, because it's the crucifixion of the Christ in us that they are mostly after. The pineal gland is the lamp of your soul. And Jacob came face to face with God at Pineal. It tells us that. And this is what they are trying to negate. And I have previously shared on my YouTube channel where Bill Gates was explaining how, actually I'll try and find it again and save it. I saved it with to some of my friends. Just Google it, look it up. It's a 2005 CIA debriefing where Bill Gates explained how a future coronavirus vaccination would basically, in a nutshell, negate pineal gland function because of us religious bigots, or whatever they want to call it. Again, this is a spiritual battle that we are going through right now, more so. So if they can negate pineal gland function, which is the lamp of your soul, which produces melatonin, which is also one of those things for optimal health, I would encourage you to look into sun gazing. It's if you look at the sun in the morning when it comes up, or in the evenings when it goes down. We have calcite crystals in the pineal gland. They're piezoelectrical crystals that help us produce melatonin. Melatonin is a macrophage that goes through your body at night while you are eating, while you're sleeping, and it eats up all the defective cells. This is something I would also encourage you to do, because the more melatonin, naturally produced melatonin you have, the more of the defective and cancer cells get gobbled up at night while you sleep, and then your body naturally wants to produce new cells. And what I do is I do take shilajit resin, which has 85% minerals in it that we no longer get in our foods. So I do take that every day. And something I've also been doing the last few months is methylene blue, which then makes optimal production of our mitochondrial DNA. So I try and take care of my body on a molecular level as well. And like Stacey on Doug and Stacey teaches, for gut health, it's really, really important for us to have probiotic rich foods that does not come from dairy, that needs to come from the lactobacillus and everything that is created from fermented foods. So I make my own kimchi, and sauerkraut is really important. Any of those natural foods, because it boosts your immunity. It makes sure that your gut is super strong against all of the pathogens and all of these other things that are not good for us. I would love to help other people get healthy, and if you can reproduce and encourage new cell growth in your bodies, you actually, I've noticed, can actually look younger because you're continuously producing new cells. I'll be 52 in December, and again, I feel strongly that this is what God put me on the earth for. And there's powers that be that don't want us speaking of this. They don't want us going within and balancing our bodies to optimal health. And like I said, I truly believe that Jesus and Magdalene and the apostles taught health and wellness and to appreciate the God within us. And this is again why they've gone for the pineal gland, because that is the lamp of our soul, and it produces melatonin, which goes to your body and eats all the bad cells. And then we have our pituitary, which produces many things, but for me predominantly is oxytocin and vasopressin, which is also really important. The glands or the glands in your body, which is your temple, is what we need to take care of. And I truly honestly believe that when the milk and honey flow through the glands of your temple, we are one with God. And this is what has been attacked by vaccinations, by pharmaceuticals, by the water industry, and then we've been attacked on all levels. And it is my calling, I feel strongly, to help others get healthy and well. So if we pay attention to the foods that are not good for us and we boost our immunity, we can actually stop putting the poisonous foods in our body that take us out of alignment and take us off of our path. So I hope that this has helped, and if anybody wants help, I would love to help you however I can. You can email me at heavenlychild6331@gmail.com, and I will give you my number so that we can have a one-to-one conversation, so that I can help you be the best version of you that you can be. Thank you. And my prayer that I always say each day is that the light of God surrounds me, the love of God enfolds me, the power of God protects me, and the presence of God watches over me. Wherever I am, God is. I hope you have a bright and beautiful day.